Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about tips and tricks for transitioning back to full in-person school. I'm going to wait a few more minutes before I fully get started, or at least one more minute. I do want to announce that this is going to be recorded so that I can post this to my page later on for any parents who weren't able to join us today. So again, this meeting is going to be recorded. Feel free to turn your camera off. Please mute your microphones. If you do have a question, you can unmute your microphone or you can put it in the chat. While I am showing my PowerPoint, I can't see the chat. So if you have a question for me at the end of the presentation, I will have time at the end of the presentation to ask direct questions. But if you have any questions for me in the middle of the presentation, I ask that you just unmute and just ask your question right away. That's totally fine. We have a good group with us already. So I will wait about 30 more seconds and then I'll get started because we do have some people who are kind of trickling in. Again, I appreciate everyone who's joining today. And again, our presentation is about tips and tricks on transitioning back to school. So again, I recognize that some of us have been in school, some of us have been doing remote learning, some of us have been doing hybrid learning. This presentation is primarily geared to our elementary school students. However, we are, welcome. Everything we talk about today is going to be relevant to all, but the priority of this is to support our elementary students who are returning for the full in-person a week from today. So, all right, we're going to get started. Just going to check for there's anyone else coming in. All right, wonderful. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lauren Sabella. I am the district behavioral health coach for Reading Public Schools. I've been within Reading for 4 years now. I'm also a proud Reading veteran, I like to call myself. I was a Birchie Bear and then a Coolidge Comet and then a Reading Rocket. I won't disclose how long ago that was, but I've been working for the district for the past 4 years now. My role within the district is to support all of you. I support family, I support parents, I support caregivers, I support staff members, teachers, and of course, our students. I wear a variety of hats, one of which is doing things like this and giving presentations. I also do classroom consults, and occasionally I do home consults as well. I offer a variety of trainings as well as in-person coaching within our schools. So I work with behavioral health as well as mental health. And I work with all of our fantastic mental health staff within our district as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. That doorbell means that more are joining us. So I'm going to try to admit all. Again, I apologize. I cannot see the chat as I'm presenting. So if you have a question, I need you to unmute. But if you're not speaking directly, I do ask that you continue to maintain muted. I will have time at the end of the presentation for questions. So this will definitely be interactive, but we have a good group with us today. So for the most part, I'm just going to be presenting. Can one person just real quickly unmute and let me know, can you see my PowerPoint? I would really hate to be doing all of this and have no one be able to see it.
We can see your PowerPoint.
Wonderful, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, and we're gonna move on to the next slide. Can you see the next slide? That's happened to me before where I was clicking slides and nothing changed. Can you see slide 1? There should be a child coloring.
Yes.
And excellent, thank you so much. I really appreciate you volunteering to speak. It's very frustrating when I'm talking to myself. Again, the topic of today is tips and tricks for transitioning back to school. As I said earlier, everyone's kind of in a different situation. Some students may have been in person almost from the get-go if they had a special situation or if they were a high need student, maybe they have been in. I believe also our kindergartners have been in full-time as well as our preschoolers. So maybe you guys have had a taste of being in school for a little while now. If you're first grade through fifth grade, you're probably most likely in our hybrid model, or if for medical or personal reasons you weren't able to be in person, this may be your first time coming into school in some time. So we're going to talk about those different situations and try to get through all of them today. Again, I will have time at the end for direct questions. And again, I am recording this. This will be posted on my website, and I'm also going to share it with the CPAC. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. So tip number one is talking to your child or student about similarities and differences. So first of all, school. It's been a while since they've been in school. Maybe it's been a while since they've been in school with all of their classmates. So you want to start talking to them about what it's going to look like. So what's going to be the same? Their teacher is going to be the same, right? That same bubbly, happy, interactive person that they've been seeing on their computer screen, that's going to be the same person. The workload's going to be the same, right? It's not going to be significantly harder or significantly easier being in person. It might feel a little bit different, but hopefully it's better for most of our students because they'll get to be in person with their peers, they'll get to be in person with their teacher, they'll have easier access to adults being within the classroom, and they'll get to kind of read the room, so to speak, over their peers as well. Some differences. So whether, again, they've been in person the entire time, or whether this is a hybrid, or if they haven't been in at all due to circumstances, the school year is going to look a little bit different from now on. And that's pretty, it can be concerning for our kiddos. So we just want to talk to them about it. We want to talk to them about what do they remember about school? What do they remember it looking like? What do they like about school? Start talking to them about some things that are going to be the same and some things that are going to be different. I know for some schools, they used to maybe have tables, especially at the younger grades. And in order to support that 6 feet differences, they switched to desks. So they may have been in person and they may have had their own desk and they may have been 6 feet apart. Now, to welcome all of our students back, that has shifted again. And now they're going to be about 3 feet apart. So if your kiddo has been in class, remember that they're no longer 6 feet apart. Now they're 3 feet apart. That's probably one of our number one questions that we're going to get. And I will share with you some resources at the end of this presentation. One of the resources is going to be our FAQs. Mary Juliana, our district nurse, is fabulous. Her and the rest of our district nurses have been working very, very hard in creating kind of an FAQ list for frequently asked questions and providing you those answers. And one of the frequently asked questions that we're predicting to get is, why are we suddenly at 3 feet instead of the 6 feet? And there, she does a beautiful job answering that. But in summary, it's because the CDC says that now it's safe enough to be 3 feet away. So it is safe to be 3 feet away. We're still going to be wearing our masks. We're still going to be, 6 feet away when we're eating, or we're going to have some of that plexiglass in between during eating. So some things will certainly be looking different. And that's probably one of my biggest tips that I will continue to talk about a little bit more. If your kiddo has not been physically in school all year, I really pushed this training to be today as soon as possible, because I really recommend that you get your kiddo physically in school, or at least to go visit the school before their first day back on the 5th. If your kiddo has never been physically step foot in a school at all this school year, and the 5th is going to be their first day, I highly, highly recommend that you physically bring them to the school. Contact your principal and say, hey, Lauren Sabella made this recommendation. Is there any way we can pop in? You can do that during the school day. You can try to do it before the school day, after the school day, whatever you think will be best for your kiddo, just for them to get the lay of the land. If your kiddo seems to be a little bit more anxious, maybe try before or after school where there's fewer students in, just to, again, look at how the building's physically looking different. So that's definitely one of my recommendations around similarities and differences. Once they've seen the school, again, bring them back home, talk about it. What's similar? What's different? What did you notice, right? A lot of noticing. Really encourage that conversation. We don't want to accidentally project our own fears and anxieties on our kiddos. So we really want to make sure that we're, being sensitive to that and offering them our support and a space for them to talk about things. They may be excited, they may be nervous, they may be a mix of both. But I think it's important to start with talking about similarities and differences from the get-go, because there will be a lot of things that are the same, but obviously there will be some things that are different. One of the differences, which again, we'll talk about more in a little bit, is certainly the masks, right? So again, if your kiddo has not been physically in school, maybe they're not used to wearing a mask. I highly, again, recommend that if your kiddo has not been wearing a mask all day, maybe do some dry runs. Take them to the grocery store, take them to Target, take them out to the park, and have them practice wearing their mask. Try a few different masks. Sometimes homemade masks are great. Sometimes the disposable masks are good. See what mask fits your kiddo. Try some different ones and try to build up their tolerance of wearing it. We certainly don't want the first day back in school to be the first day that we're wearing a mask all day. That would be very, triggering, a little bit uncomfortable. So kind of build up their tolerance a little bit to it. It'll feel certainly different for our kiddos. But from what I've seen, and I've been able to be in the school for most of the year, our kids are doing really, really well with them. I'm very impressed, from our RISE preschoolers all the way up to our high schoolers, kids are doing fairly well with masks. So again, if we haven't seen the school yet, we definitely want to go by and go check it out. And if our kiddo has not worn a mask yet, we definitely want to practice wearing that mask. All right, on to, so this is just a cute image that I found online. So again, some similarities and differences here, right? So one of those differences, right, are trying to figure out our social norms. Hugs and high fives are not really recommended anymore, unfortunately, and that can be especially hard for our little ones. Personally, I have a 4-year-old at home, and it took a little time to try to explain to her about, we can't just go run up and hug our friends anymore. And that's hard, right? Especially for our little ones who experience so much feelings and so much joy, and they really get a lot of attention with physical touch. Certainly, with family, immediate family members, whatever you're comfortable with, you can still give hugs and kisses and high fives, but those are things that you do right at home. Those aren't things that we would be doing in school. So this is just a cute photo of that, that elbow bump, right? Some schools do air hugs, some schools do air high fives. So there's still going to be different ways that we maneuver our social situations, but it's going to look a little bit different. Okay. So again, just be mindful that there are some physical differences and there's also going to be some social differences. So being prepared to, again, talk through those different things about what that's going to look like for your kiddo. But again, what's the same? The same is that your friends are there, right? It's the same friends, it's your same classmates, it's the kids that you've been with all year. So they're kids that you know. So again, focus on the similarities, especially if you find yourself or your little one starting to get a little bit overwhelmed with all of the differences and all of the things that are changing. Not everything is different. There's still going to be coloring, there's still going to be reading, there's still going to be learning, there's still going to be, calendar time and morning meeting. They're still going to have their specials. They're going to have, their art and their music. Gym or PE may look a little bit different, but you're still going to have all of those great things. So again, just kind of, pulling apart those similarities and those differences and helping talk through them with your kiddo. Tip number 2, focus on the good. I stole this off of the Joshua Eaton Twitter. I figured it was online. So if one of your kiddos is in there, I hope that's okay. It was online, so I figured it was good to share with this, but it was fun to show our actual school. So, what are you excited about? I think that's the next tip, right? So after we kind of talk about the what's similar, what's different, let's start talking about getting them excited, right? So we have some time before we, start our full in-person again. What are they looking forward to? What do you think is going to happen today? And that's how you can kind of start your morning routine. So again, start your morning routine now. If you haven't done that already, your home school schedule is going to be no more, right? You're going to have a full in-person schedule. So start kind of prepping for what that's going to look like and start making it fun, start making it exciting. What are you looking forward to? What are you hoping to happen? And what are you grateful for today? So, really start focusing on and talking about the positive things that they're looking forward to. Lunch is still free for the rest of the year. I know as a parent, I'm excited that I don't have to, make lunches for the rest of the year. That's kind of exciting, those kinds of things. Like what are some things that you're excited about? What are some things that you're looking forward to? Focusing on the positives of getting to be in school again with your friends. That should be another focus. This was just some great quotes that I wanted to share with you about the power of positivity, right? Being positive won't guarantee that you'll succeed, but being negative will guarantee that you won't, from John Gordon. So again, that's, just again, a great quote about positivity, right? Another one is, if you think you will or you think you won't, either way, you're right, right? So again, thinking positive, thinking upbeat, I'm going to have a good day today. I'm going to have a good day today. Chances are you're going to have a good day today. Or if you're saying, I hate school, I have no friends, no one likes me, no one talks to me, that can be really hard to change that negative thinking. But if we can help our kids to change that negative thinking, we can dramatically promote positivity and we can really change their day around. They can have a better day with the power of positive thinking. I know it's not always easy to be positive, especially when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Another one of my favorite quotes is from Mr. Rogers, and he would always say, look for the helpers, right? So even in our times of stress, even when our country is dealing with some really awful or, really scary things, even in the worst of the worst, there's always people doing good. There's always people who are helping. There are always people who are sharing, who are someone to be inspired about. And I think that that's a really great message to send to our kids. Even if you're having a hard day, even if it's really, really tough or you're just feeling overwhelmed, remember there's always going to be someone there to help you. Your teachers, your school psychologists, your counselors, your nurses, your principal. There are so many people that are so excited and working so hard for you to come back to school, for you to have a great time, and for above all, you to be safe. So, our hope is that you come back and that you're safe and that you feel good in school. And remember, there's always an adult there to help you. So again, power of positivity is certainly my second tip. Talked about this a little bit before, but I wanted to make it a firm tip as well, setting your kids up for success. So I wanted to talk about this for a little bit. So I showed two examples. One is kind of like the regular daily schedule, and then something that you might see in your actual classroom. So again, our daily schedules are changing again. Change and transitions are the two biggest triggers of challenging behavior. A lot of adults don't like change, and a lot of kids don't like change. So I'm not going to downplay it for you. Another change in schedule is going to be hard. It's going to be hard on your kids. It's going to be hard on your kids who have been there from the beginning. It's going to be hard on your kids who have not been there at all. And it's going to be hard on your kids who have been doing remote. I just want to validate your feelings there. It's going to be hard. The best thing that we can do, again, is set them up for success. If your teacher hasn't done so already, reach out to them and ask, do you have the new schedule? They may or may not. Again, we're kind of scrambling to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. There may be still changes at your individual school, but if your teacher has the schedule of what it's going to look like, reach out and ask what that looks like. Share that with your students so they're kind of mentally prepared. Again, going to the school physically and checking out what the classroom will look like is going to be huge if they've never seen the classroom before. If they've been in class in the hybrid model, you don't necessarily have to bring them into school because they're doing that every other week. Just remind them that it's going to look a little different because there's going to be a few more friends in their classroom. If they're used to only having 10 kids in a class, now they might have 20. And that's a big change, right? Change is hard. Validate that. Recognize that, mentally prepare for that mentally and prepare for that physically. So again, get your routine in order. If you're used to the hybrid or if you're used to being at home, start setting yourself up for success of setting those alarms, picking out clothes the night before, prepping for breakfasts, for lunches, whatever that's going to look like for you, whatever makes sense for your family, that makes sense to, get your kiddos ready for school. What does transportation look like in the morning? What does the bus schedule look like? What else has changed that you need to mentally prepare for? Take this week, and as much as you can, model what next week is going to look like. If you're remote this week, or if you're just not in person until next week, I would even recommend doing the whole morning routine, getting your kiddo in the car and physically driving by the school, and maybe then going past it and going to Dunkin' Donuts. But I know for my family, mornings are the toughest. So if we can practice those mornings, if we can practice those routines, if we can practice packing that backpack, that's going to make your week a lot easier. So again, practice for success. With that, let's have realistic expectations. I thought these were some funny pictures, but in some reality, the photo on, my right with what looks like a woman who is definitely multitasking, right? She's got times and calendars and dates and laundry and sweeping and vacuuming and a baby in one hand and cleaning and mopping and cooking. This could be any one of us. This could be a mom, a dad, a grandparent, an uncle. We all have a lot on our plates, and I wanted to highlight that. I want to highlight having realistic expectations, not only for our kids, but for ourselves. Remember, I told you change is hard. It's hard on adults. It's hard on kids. And the more stressed out we get, the more stressed our kids are going to get. So if at all possible, try to lighten your load. If you have the ability to, get some help with laundry or with cooking. If it's easier to order out, if you have the means to do that a few nights a week. Whatever you can do to kind of take off your plate, to recognize that this transition is going to be a tough one. Give yourself that break. Give yourself that, get rid of that mom guilt, that dad guilt, whatever that guilt is that you have about needing to be, 110% all the time, and let it go. Remember, we're still in a pandemic, even though things are getting better and things are starting to feel almost normal again. We still have a lot on our plates. The other fun picture is of, again, a parent and child. It sounds like looks like the parent said, hey, go clean your room. So what does, the kid do? They sweep everything up and shove it underneath the bed. So sure, your room is clean, but by whose standards? So again, adjust your standards, adjust your expectations. I'm not saying that we're going to let all standards go, but I definitely am going to say pick your battles. Can you walk on the floor without tripping over a Lego? Okay, great. This week we're going to let it go. Or maybe your house needs to be clean in order for you to feel calm and organized. That's okay too. This is just one example. I encourage you to do what's right for you, what's right for your family. And again, above all, pick your battles. When we're thinking about having realistic expectations for our kids, transitioning back to school is a lot. They may also have sports. They may also have music. They may also have other extracurricular activities. To have all of that and school and changing and friends and to be expected to clean up their room, it can just be a lot. And that's all. I just wanted to kind of take this moment to kind of reflect on that, of picking your battles. Of course, we always want a clean home. Of course, we always want homework done. Of course, we always want, the best of the best. But, in the big scheme of things, take a deep breath and pick what things that are okay to let go, maybe just for this week or maybe just for next week, or again, picking those battles about what makes the most sense to focus on, because we all have a lot of stress going on in our lives right now. The next one is my next tip. I know it says anxiety 101, but essentially what I wanted to talk about was hand in hand with that previous slide is recognizing your own anxiety, and in turn, understanding our kids' anxiety. I talk a lot about anxiety. If you haven't visited my page yet, I have 3 parent tutorials on there, one specifically about anxiety, one about behaviors, and one about self-care. I could talk all day about anxiety and about school refusal and about not wanting to go. But the piece that I wanted to kind of bring in here is, we want to recognize our own anxiety first. And then be able to recognize it into our kiddos, because our kiddos are going to read the room, so to speak. Even if we don't say anything, it's in our body language, it's in our tone of voice, it's in our muscles, right? Our muscles are getting tense, our neck is getting tense, we're not eating well, we're not sleeping well. Anxiety affects us all, and it affects us all differently. Anxiety is also not this bad word. We say this a lot, we're worried about it. I'm glad as a mental health professional that this is something that is coming to light and that we're talking more and more about. However, I also want to highlight that anxiety is natural. Anxiety is a good thing, just like pain is a good thing. Pain is a symbol to your body saying that something's wrong. Anxiety is a signal to your brain saying, I'm worried about something. A little bit of anxiety is okay. It helps us make healthy risks. It helps us make, better decisions. Too much anxiety is where we get overwhelmed and stressed out. So remember that our goal is never to eliminate anxiety. Our goal is to manage it. Our goal is to recognize, okay, I feel a little anxious about this situation, and how am I going to handle it, right? So remember, anxiety isn't bad. When we think about anxiety, when we talk about anxiety, when our kids, you might even hear your kids say, "Ooh, I'm anxious," or, my tummy doesn't feel good, or I just don't want to go to school. Kids are going to tell us that they're anxious in different ways. And they may learn the actual term, anxiety, or I feel anxious from a very early age because we talk about it so much. Remember that just because a child is anxious doesn't mean that we're just going to, give in and let the world fall down and say, okay, you're anxious, you don't have to go to school today. Talk about it, label it, identify it. Okay, so you're anxious. Tell me more. What are you anxious about? What could happen? What are you worried about? How can we work through it, right? So it doesn't always have to be how can we fix it, but how can we work through it? I'm anxious that my teacher won't like me. Okay, let's talk about that. If you go to school and you feel your teacher doesn't like you, what can you do? Or who can you talk to? Or how could you manage it, right? We're not going to dismiss if a child says that they're anxious, or we're not going to say like, oh, don't worry about that, or that's not true, right? We don't want to wipe away what our child is anxious about. We don't want to diminish that. But we do want to empower them that they can work through it. And that's the biggest skill that we can give our kids, is letting them know that anxiety is okay, that they will survive it, and that they can learn to work through it. I think that's something that's really important to continue to communicate. So this picture was stolen from that New York Times article. It's a cute short article that I will have in my resources at the end of this presentation. And it talks about, parenting kids and stress. So it just talks about some different ways that we can recognize stress in our kids, including some signs being that our kids are telling us that they don't feel good, that their tummy hurts. We might also see changes in eating habits, sleeping habits, or even bathroom habits. So that's an interesting article that I will share with you at the end. Other tips for managing anxiety, again, continue to be supportive, right? Give attention, but, not too much attention. And I think that that's, can be contradicting, but, we don't, just like when a young child is throwing a tantrum, we certainly want to give attention to, whatever needs to be attended to, but we don't want to give overwhelming attention. We don't want to feed the anxiety, so to speak. So we certainly want to be supportive. We want to have a conversation, but we don't want to overreact. We don't want to baby them. We want to continue to promote wellness, continue to encourage healthy habits, eating regularly, sleeping regularly, and teaching coping skills. Talk to your kids about, when I'm feeling anxious, I do this. What do you do? Do you take a walk? Do you take a deep breath? Do you take a drink of water? Maybe you drink some warm tea. What is it that helps you calm down when you're feeling anxious? Again, regulating that anxiety is something that we all feel, and that we can all manage throughout the day. And this is another infographic that I took from NAMI, which is the National Anxiety, actually, I forget what it stands for, but NAMI is a fantastic organization. I could click on it, but I want to make sure that we get through this presentation. And it's a fantastic resource that I will certainly share with everyone again at the end of the presentation. My fifth tip is read about it, right? So again, if our kids are anxious, right? If they're anxious about what school is going to look like, they're still anxious about the coronavirus, they're not really sure what it's going to look like. These are two great free books. Again, I will have these attached at the end of my presentation. You can download them. They're free downloads online. They're PDFs. The first one is A Kid's Guide to the Coronavirus, which is fantastic. It's from LCSW and a PhD, and they wrote this really cute children's book around, what is it? How do we understand it? I'm hoping by now your kids know what the coronavirus is, but if you haven't been talking about it or if they're still confused, this is a really great book to kind of talk about what it is and why we have to do all this mask wearing and hand washing and social distancing. Unstuck is another great resource, 10 things to do to stay safe and sane during the pandemic. Cute little workbook of things to do with your kids. So those are just some great resources. If you're looking for other books about, transitioning back to school or practicing schedules and routines, please feel free to reach out to me, your child's teacher, or your school librarian. They're fantastic resources. A lot of times when people ask me for book recommendations, I go straight to the librarians because they know more than I do. But again, these are two free downloads, and they are wonderful resources. Our next tip is, again, healthy habits, right? So again, reminding that transitioning back to school, back to that first tip, right? Some things are the same, some things are different. So I think the one great thing that came out of this coronavirus is the hand washing. I've never seen so many kids expert at hand washing. They all wash their hands, they rub them for 20 seconds, they sing the songs, right? So we wash our hands before we eat, we wash our hands after we play, we wash our hands before we share toys. So lots and lots of hand washing, right? And then the next is the mask wearing, right? So we're going to make sure that we wear a clean mask. We're going to wear it appropriately over our mouth and our nose. We're going to make sure that we give our friends some space, especially when we're eating, we're not sharing food. So all of these healthy habits are, again, practicing them at home and prepping them for school. Another healthy habit that I didn't add an infograph on because I didn't want to make it too long, but I do, again, want to remind parents about the importance of safe sleep, essentially, or healthy sleep, right? So healthy sleep habits. There's a term, now I'm blanking on what it is called. Sleep hygiene. There it is. Sleep hygiene is a fun term, and it's essentially really promoting setting up your room for healthy sleep, and that looks like no electronics in the room. I know in 2021 it's hard to not have electronics. But really minimizing the amount of electronics in the room. No phone, no video games, no stereos, no TVs. Research has shown that just having these kinds of things in your child's room, or even us as adults in our adult room, actually inhibits our ability for a good night's sleep. Our phones, we're anxious if it's just next to us about whether or not it's going to go off, or there's buzzes, or there's dings, or there's other things going on, even if they're silent. That we don't sleep as well than if they were plugged in, let's say, in a kitchen or in a different room. TVs, we know that watching TV or video games, anything that can exhibit, really has a screen, exhibits that blue light. The blue light sends signals to our brain to keep us awake. So good sleep hygiene includes, no TV or electronics at least 1 hour before bedtime, and just kind of eliminating them from your room completely if possible for good sleep. Also making sure that your room is cool, making sure that it is dark, making sure that it is safe, quiet, all of those kind of things. Good sleep definitely helps promote healthy digestion, and it also helps promote reducing anxiety and be able to, again, be better performance in the school day. So practicing those healthy habits are all great, helpful things to get us prepped for coming back to school. This is just another great infographic. Again, things that we can continue to do to keep ourselves safe: washing hands, disposing of tissues, trying to avoid crowds or touching our face. So again, these are all the healthy habits that we're still using going back to school. So again, we want to be really mindful. Again, even though we're going back to school and we're seeing an improvement and that we're getting the vaccine, if we're still not feeling well, or if we're having any of those symptoms, that we're still staying home and staying away from others if we're feeling sick. My seventh tip is, like the Boy Scouts, always be prepared, right? So we talked a lot about some of those healthy habits. A tip that I've seen, especially being in the schools and seeing our little ones who, try as much as they can, will still kind of touch their masks and touch their face. I really recommend sending your child to school with extra masks. I've seen kids change their masks a few times throughout the day. Sometimes they chew on them, sometimes they suck on them, sometimes they get food on it. Definitely give your kiddo some extra masks. If there's a special hand sanitizer that your kid likes, the ones at the school aren't bad. But I know if you go to like public places, they can smell really, really strong. If you have a kiddo who's sensitive to certain, scents, you can certainly send them to school with that hand sanitizer, maybe that they like, or maybe that's gentler on their skin. With that hand lotion, again, with the constant hand washing and hand sanitizer, maybe a little hand lotion if their hands get dry. Tissues are always good. Again, with the hand lotion, the hand washing, all of those things. I just wanted to name things that might be helpful for your child. So again, if there are things that that might be helpful for your child in school, make sure you're sending them to school with them. But the biggest one was definitely sending them to school with extra masks. I believe all the schools have extra masks. They have extra PPE. So again, if something happens, we can definitely get your child the mask, but it may not be their favorite superhero. It may not be the material that they like. So again, if they don't have to worry about their mask or adjusting it or touching it, it'll just make it that much easier. And again, practice that hand washing at home. They will be prompted to do it. They will do it frequently. So make that a part of your routine again at home. Oh, we got to eat dinner, wash your hands. Oh, we got to, go outside, wash our hands. Again, there's hand sanitizer everywhere within the schools. That's not you have to, but I just thought that would be something helpful if your child has, either sensitive skin or is sensitive to strong smells. My next tip, as we're wrapping up, we're getting closer to number 10. I figured 10 was a nice round number of tips and tricks to share with you all today. To remember to take a break. And this tip is both for you as the adult and your child. So this little infographic is, keeping calm and managing stress. So again, remembering that although it's been a year and we're finally seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, we're still in that pandemic. Stress is still very high. We're still managing a lot, juggling a lot. Remember that you're not alone. Remember that a lot of people are still struggling with this. Remember that how you feel is going to impact your kids, right? So if you can take care of yourself, your kids will also be able to calm their own stress and anxiety. They'll do better. And they'll be able to, kids are very resilient. They really are. They can bounce back a lot faster than adults. But if they see that you're taking a break, it kind of gives them that permission to kind of take a pause and take a break as well. So if you're feeling stressed out at home or at work, go take a break, go get a cup of coffee, go outside, go take a breather, or just kind of sit in a quiet place and just be, right? Practice that mindfulness. Just really take a moment and take a break. This is also a skill that when we practice it as adults, we can again help our kids to practice it. Your child does not need an IEP or a 504 or any kind of special accommodation to take a break at school. If they need a break, they can just ask, right? They can say, hey, I need a break. A lot of our elementary school classrooms still have a calm corner, right? I want to go sit in the calm corner. I want to just go to the bathroom. I want to go get a drink of water, whatever it is that they need. If they just need to, walk out of that classroom, to take a breather, to take a walk, they can do that. And you can advocate for your kid to do that. Teach your child that skill to recognize when they need a break and to ask for it. We want our kids to be self-advocators, right? We want them to acknowledge when they need to take space, when they need to take a break. There are mask breaks built into the day. So there are certainly times a day where your kids could take them off, that when they have snack, when they have lunch. There's different schools have different areas where they take mask breaks. Some are only outside, some have certain areas. But your kids will have breaks built into their day. But again, that doesn't mean that they can't take a break on their own. So again, remember that not only is it okay to take a break, but that it can help, right? By taking breaks, we're recognizing that ourselves, we're recognizing our regulation skills, we're really making ourselves, back in that green zone, if you're familiar with the zones of regulation, right? That learning zone. So, using that is certainly a skill. And remind your kiddo that if they're starting to feel overwhelmed, if they're starting to feel stressed out, ask for help, right? They can either ask an adult to take a break, or they can choose a break themselves, right? To, again, like I said, take a walk, sit in the calming corner, ask to read a book, whatever it is that's going to help them kind of calm down and decompress, they can certainly do that. My ninth tip of transitioning back into school kind of goes along with our tip around positivity. And this is something that I feel really passionate about, and it's something that has helped me. And it's to practice gratitude. Some benefits of gratitude is that, again, it improves sleep, it improves psychological health, it enhances self-esteem, it improves our social connection, which I feel more than ever is something that we really need to continue to focus on, is how we can promote our social emotional awareness and build, feeling connected to one another. And it also reduces, aggression, stress, and frustration. So I really liked this little infographic around different ways to practice gratitude. There's gratitude journals, there's gratitude calendars. There's so many different ways that we can practice gratitude. But if you make this, again, part of your daily routine, maybe before bed, or maybe, at family dinner time, to really just take a moment to kind of reflect on your day or reflect on yourself, and helping your child to kind of reflect about how they're doing, it's going to help to regulate them. It's a really wonderful skill. Again, when everything is stressful and everything feels out of control and everyone really feels overwhelmed, practicing gratitude can be very grounding. It can be very centering, and it can really help both regulate emotions and regulate behaviors as well. So this is an excellent tool to use. It's a wonderful way to also practice mindfulness, and it's something that you can do with a child at any age. So I definitely recommend that as well. My final tip of today is to remember that we're not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm. I've seen many different images of this, created with different boats and lifeboats and yachts and naval ships and teeny little life rafts. And I think that this one kind of, relates probably to us, the most recently, right? We have one student who's in a comfy chair. She has an umbrella. She looks like she has a laptop. She seems pretty content. And then this other, again, looks like a child sitting on what looks like a very minimal raft with two small bags next to the child. And I mean, this is just, I think, just speaks volumes to remembering that, yes, we've all experienced this pandemic. But we're not all in the same boat. Some of us have lost loved ones. Some of us have been struggling with illness. Some of us have unfortunately caught the coronavirus or love someone who caught the coronavirus. Some of us have had to quarantine for very long periods of time, have not been able to leave our house, have not been able to see loved ones still. And I think that that's just something to really, again, reflect back on with my earlier tip of gratitude. Even if you've had a really tough year, it can be really hard to practice that gratitude, but finding something good, finding something that you are grateful for, that you were appreciative of, and really grounding yourself for the things that you do have, because life is short, and this is a hard time, and we need to all be there for one another. If someone is short with us, if someone is rude to us, if someone is, they snap at us, take a moment and take pause and try to not take it personally. Remember that we don't know what that person is going through. Remember that we don't know what they're experiencing, if they've experienced loss, if they've experienced stress, if they've experienced food insecurities. So again, just kind of remember that although we're all experiencing this tough time and we're trying to balance all this, we're not all in the same boat. We're not all in the same situation. And this is something that I hope as parents, we're able to, reach out to one another and continue to help each other. Again, I'm a Reading veteran. I love Reading. I love this community. I love the people in it. And I love being a part of it. So I hope that we reach out to each other and one another. We continue to support each other. And as we go into this challenging end of the year, right? We have, I think someone mentioned that we only have about 11 weeks left. Doesn't quite feel like that. But as we go into this this last and final stretch, remembering that we're all in the same storm together. We're all in it. And we need to recognize that we're not all in the same boat, and we may have all different situations. So it's just important to be reflective and mindful and be patient and kind, even to those who may not be patient and kind with us. So that is the end of my presentation today. I want to be respectful of our time together, and I want to be respectful of people who may have a question and may not want to share it. So I'm going to actually pause. I'm going to show my last page of resources. So again, this will be posted to my behavioral health page. I will also share it with our director, Jen Sties, who will share it so that we can make sure that this is posted. But I'm going to pause the recording and open it up to questions. If I can figure out how to pause the recording, sorry.